Okay, welcome to A Million Bottles a Minute, Closing the Plastics Loop. So this workshop was designed by Learning for a Sustainable Future with generous support from HP. So this workshop is going to give you an idea of the global plastics problem, talk a little bit about why it exists, give you some fun activities to learn about it, and learn what you as youth can do about it. So before getting started, I want to make sure everybody has what you need to do this workshop. So the first thing that you'll need is a home plastics bingo worksheet. You should have either printed or copied this plastics bingo card onto a different sheet of paper. And it looks like this with different clues on the one side. And on the other side is a blank grid where you can write your answers. The second thing you'll need is a collection of hidden plastics cards. So you should have 10 of these cards. And you should have cut them out into little pieces that look something like this. And then the third worksheet that you'll need is a commitment to action. So it looks like this with a place for you to sign your name at the bottom. And you'll need something to write with as well. So marker, pen, pencil, doesn't matter. So if you need to go get those materials, do that now and you can press pause on this recording and come back to get started. Pressing pause is something that you're going to be doing a couple times throughout this recording. So you'll just need to get familiar with how to do it so you can actually have time to do the activities.
So we're going to introduce ourselves. My name is Sam, and that's Jen. And we both work for Learning for a Sustainable Future, or LSF. LSF is a Canadian charity that was founded in 1991. And we work all across Canada and around the world, but our headquarters are in Toronto. Our goal is to integrate sustainability education into the school system. We think kids should be learning more about sustainability, the environment, and how to be active citizens. We do this by working at all levels. We work with governments, school boards, your teachers, and kids like you across the country and around the world. We want to empower you to make the world a better place. So this is what we're going to be doing in the workshop today. We're going to introduce you to the plastics problem. We're going to do a home plastics bingo activity to find plastics in your home. We're going to do an activity to help you understand the difference between single-use and reusable plastics. We're going to do an activity to find the hidden plastics in our everyday items. We're going to introduce you to the circular economy. And then we're going to show you some of the amazing examples of how youth are taking action on the plastics problem already. Then we're going to ask you to commit to make your own changes in your life. And then we have an extension activity to help you track your plastics and some information on how we can help you. So to get started, we're going to watch this short video introducing the plastics problem.
Open your eyes. When did we become a plastic society? We got plastic bags, plastic water bottles, plastic straws, plastic cups, plastic wrap, plastic utensils, and plastic to-go containers. Plastic is a substance the earth cannot digest, and every bit of plastic that has ever been created still exists. Every day in the United States, we throw out almost 88,000 tons of plastic. Now, what happens to plastic after you use it? Well, most of it goes into landfills. A portion gets into the water course and eventually ends up in the oceans. Recycling is not a sustainable solution. It's actually called downcycling because plastic never goes away. Consumption of disposable plastics has spiraled out of control. What is the number one thing plastic is made out of? Well, every year we use 17 million barrels of oil to make plastic water bottles. This is enough to fuel 1 million cars every year. Plastic pieces on the ocean surface now outnumber sea life 6 to 1. Plastic makes up almost 90% of all trash floating on the ocean surface, 46,000 pieces of plastic per square mile. By refusing disposable plastic, you can improve the health of the ocean and the environment around us, including human health and animal health. Plastic pollution is a global problem that humans alone have caused. We can do something about it. Remember, bring reusable items with you, like a water bottle, a cup, a bag, utensils. Refuse plastic when it's offered. And remember to say, no straw, please. Only purchase items in sustainable packaging, like glass and wax paper.
Okay, and now we're going to even go through a few more facts that may seem really crazy, but they're actually true. So first, the biggest problem with plastic is that it doesn't really ever break down. It just becomes smaller and smaller pieces of plastic. And to reiterate what we just learned in that video, 1 million plastic bottles are bought around the world every minute, and that number will keep on growing. So we're not using less and less plastic every day, we're using more. Enough plastic is thrown away each year that it could circle around the earth 4 times if it was lined up side by side. Plastic water bottles take an estimated 450 years to break down. That's a really long time. Microplastics, which are tiny little plastic particles that can be formed during plastic production or in the process of plastic breakdown, make their way into oceans and other bodies of water, which can be really dangerous for animals and for humans too, because we can ingest them. As we also just learned, plastic is made of oil. About 6% of the world's oil consumption is for plastic production. That may not seem like a big percentage, but it really is. That's a lot of oil. So what's the big deal? Well, oil is a non-renewable resource, meaning that when we take it from the earth and use it to make things like plastic, it doesn't naturally replace itself. It takes billions of years to form.
So let's get into our first activity. This activity was designed to get you thinking about all the plastics that might be living around your house. Let's have some fun exploring our homes while playing a game of what we call plastics bingo. Depending on who's at home with you, decide if you want to make it a friendly race. For example, who can fill up the card the fastest, who can get a straight line first, or maybe work together to get as many squares as you can in 10 minutes. Okay, everyone who wants to play should be holding up a bingo sheet. Jen's going to hold it up for us to look at. On one side, it shows 12 different squares with 12 different clues in each square. On the back, there are 12 blank squares. So as you find things to match each clue, you can write or draw these things on the back. So let's do an example. For number 2, plastic that you can see through, Jen found a plastic cup. Ooh, yep, she can see through it. So on the back of her sheet, in box number 2, she can write or draw a plastic cup. Yeah, right there. How do you know if something is plastic? If you're not sure, try using a process of elimination. Glass is often heavy and breakable. Metal is cold and shiny. Wood, you can usually see the grains in it. Plastic is usually lighter and not breakable. It might make a different sound when you tap on it. It's totally okay to guess. You can always check in with a parent or sibling if you want to make sure. So now that we have an idea of what you're going to be doing, it's time to get playing. You can complete a line on your sheet, an X, or even the whole card if you want a challenge. So pause the video now and come back as soon as you're finished. All right, welcome back. I hope that was fun. I wonder how many of you were able to fill up your whole card. Looking at the items that you wrote down or drew on the back, are you surprised at how many different shapes and sizes and variations of plastic there are all around your house? Plastic really does come in all varieties and is used for so many purposes. Although we learned about all the ways it can cause harm to the earth, it is also very useful in a lot of ways, and that is a big reason why so much of it is being made.
Okay, so what is the difference between single-use and reusable plastics? The name itself is pretty self-explanatory. Single-use plastics are designed to be used only once, whereas reusable plastics are designed to be used over and over many more times than just once. So single use, an example might be a plastic wrap on a candy or a single use plastic water bottle, whereas reusable plastics, an example might be Tupperware or a reusable water bottle. So all of the items that you see here are plastic. They're all made of plastic, but they're different types of plastic. So can you decide which ones you think are single use plastic meaning they're designed to be used just once, versus reusable. So you may think, oh, some of these items can be used more than once, but that's not what we're wondering. We want to know which ones were designed to be just used once. So pause the recording and see which ones how many you think are single use, and then come back to find out the answers. Okay, how did you do? We found 7 of these items were single-use plastics. So these are the ones that they are. Now we're going to return to our plastics bingo sheets. So on the back, where you wrote down all of the items that you found around your house, figure out which ones that you wrote or drew are single use and circle them on your sheet. You can pause the video here for a few minutes if you need to take some time to do this. And hopefully most of the items that you found lying around your house are reusable. If they're not, if they're single use, maybe think about some ways that you could change that. How could you replace the single use items with reusable items? We're going to talk about that a little bit more later and give you some more ideas.
In this next activity, we're going to find out some misconceptions about where we find plastic in our everyday items. We use a lot of different plastics every day, and we found some of them on our home bingo sheets, but there can also be plastics hidden in things that you wouldn't expect. For this activity, you're going to need your hidden plastics cards that you printed and cut out. Jen's going to hold up hers for us. So they should look like that. You should have cut them into separate cards. If you're feeling ambitious, you could also take a look at that sheet and go through your house and find real examples of those things so that you can actually feel them and touch them when you're deciding if there's plastics in them. But if you just want to use the cards, that's fine too. So for this activity, we're going to get you to sort the cards into 2 piles. One pile for items that you think don't have any plastic in them, and another pile for items you think might have plastic hidden in them. So we're going to press pause now and take as much time as you need to do your best to figure out which of these items have plastic and which ones don't. We're going to go through all the answers when you press play again, so make sure you pause now and don't get any sneak peeks of the answers. So actually, all of those items contain hidden plastic. There may have been some surprises on this list, so we're going to go through where the plastic is hiding in each of these. In receipts, the paper used to print receipts actually contains plastic and includes the harmful plastic chemical BPA, which is dangerous to humans. Regular tea bags contain heat-resistant plastic to hold the tea bag together in hot water, and therefore they're not fully biodegradable. And most pyramid tea bags, like the one in the picture, are made entirely of plastic. You may know that the container that the wet wipes come in is plastic, but the wipes themselves actually contain plastic fibers that won't biodegrade. Even ones that are marked flushable are only called that because the plastic fibers break down into smaller fibers more easily. Fleece is actually made from recycled plastic bottles, which is great. However, when it's washed, fleece and other garments made from synthetic fibers shed tiny threads that make their way into the sewage and eventually our waterways. Because there are so many microplastics in the sea now, sea salt can actually contain plastic. And that means that when you're eating sea salt, you might be eating tiny bits of plastic. Juice boxes and other drink cartons are made of paper, but to keep the material from getting soggy in contact with liquids, it's treated with a plastic film. This makes it really hard to recycle as it's difficult to separate the paper and the plastic layers. The face wash and shower gel and body scrub are all in plastic bottles, but the scrubs may also contain plastic microbeads, which are used for scrubbing, and these get washed down the drain and end up in our waterways. Gum and toothpaste might come in plastic packages, but the base for making these things is also plastic. So if you spit out your gum, it never decomposes. And for cotton swabs or Q-tips, it's easy to forget that the 2 pieces of cotton are connected by plastic. So remember to never flush them down the toilet. Plastic is a huge part of our lives, so we're not getting away from it anytime soon, but we can definitely use less. And the first step is to identify all the sources, even the hidden ones.
Okay, So now that we know lots of hidden places that plastic exists, let's talk about something called the circular economy, which many of you may already be familiar with, or this may be a brand new topic for some of you too. So let's see what we're talking about when we say circular economy. So this is what you see here is called a linear economy. So this is the process that everything we buy, use, and throw away goes through. So it starts with raw materials. These are taken from the environment, then production, where we turn them into something useful. And then after that, they're shipped to stores, we use them, and then when we're done using them, we throw them away. So to make this a little bit clearer, let's go through a few examples of what we mean by linear economy. So this first example is the raw material that you see there is cotton. So it's a plant that grows on farms, and it's taken, and when it's produced, it's made into clothes. So after we buy the clothes, we wear them. Once we're done wearing them, or we grow out of them, or we just don't want them anymore, we maybe throw them out. And that's when they go to a landfill. And a landfill is basically a big hole in the ground where we dump our garbage, and then it just stays there forever. We make a lot of garbage, so there's a lot of landfills around the world. And it takes up a lot of space. Not only that, as garbage sits in the landfill, it can actually leak harmful materials that can hurt our land, water, and our animals. So another example, that raw material that you see there is cobalt. Cobalt is used to make a lot of technologies. So for example, our phones or computers. So it's used in the batteries, the wires, and different other parts. So once we buy our phones, then we use them, and then maybe they stop working or we want to upgrade to a new model, we throw them out. And same thing, they end up in the landfill. So now let's look at plastics, what we've been talking about today. Do you know what raw material we use that plastics are made from? We've talked about it a few times already. It's oil. So the same oil that we use to heat our homes and to fuel our cars makes plastic. So this uses up a lot of oil, and it makes, for example, this oil could make a plastic water bottle. We buy the water bottle, we drink it one time, and then we throw it out, and it goes to sit in a landfill. So in a linear economy, which is mostly how our society runs, everything always ends up in a landfill. Or worse, it ends up as litter in our environments, filling our land and oceans with garbage.
So how can we keep everything from ending up in a landfill or worse in our environment? How do we take this linear economy and turn it into a circle? A great example of a circular economy is actually nature. The soil is full of nutrients that help plants and trees grow. Once the trees die and fall down, they decompose and feed the soil so more trees can grow. There is no waste at all in this circular system. Nothing ends up in a landfill. So what would it look like if our economy changed from a linear system to a circular one like this? You may have heard of the 3 R's. Reduce the number of things you use, reuse them when you can, and recycle them instead of putting them in the landfill. These are some ways that we can create a circular economy. But let's look beyond the 3 R's. There are so many ways to close the loop. You can refuse items when they're offered to you. You can buy items made from recycled materials. You can refill empties. You can repurpose things. You can reclaim parts of things when they're no longer useful. You can return or re-gift things instead of throwing them out. You can repair things when they break instead of buying new ones. So let's look at how that would work in some of our examples from before. What about when you don't want a shirt anymore? Instead of dumping it in the landfill, you re-gift it to someone so they can reuse it. What if you send your old phone to an e-waste recycling company that can take it apart and reclaim the cobalt to use it again in a brand new phone? What if instead of putting your plastic bottle in the landfill, you recycle it? This means they break down the plastic into little pellets which they can then melt and make into new items. Or better yet, refuse the plastic water bottle in the first place and bring a reusable one instead. Then we don't need the plastic water bottle at all. There are so many ways to reduce or get rid of the waste part of this cycle. And you'll see that a circular economy is different for different materials. You can't reclaim the cotton from a shirt or the oil from a water bottle, but you can reuse them or recycle them or refuse them in the first place.
Okay, so now that we've learned about the plastics problem, the circular economy, do you feel empowered to make a difference and to see what you can do to change and eliminate the plastics problem? Let's take a look at what some youth are doing around the world, but specifically in Canada, to make a difference. So, the first example is students in Moncton, New Brunswick at Marshview Middle School did a research project where they interviewed local restaurants and stores to analyze their single-use plastics use and see what it would take for them to use sustainable alternatives. They took their results and they presented them to the mayor at City Hall. And in the middle, students at Miles MacDonnell Collegiate in Winnipeg, Manitoba demonstrated some really simple solutions that can be extremely effective in making a difference. So they encouraged students at their school to create reusable and compostable beeswax wrap to eliminate the use of plastic wrap. They also encouraged reusable bags instead of plastic bags and reusable lunch kits, among other things. They ran a campaign where students who were engaging in these actions would get points, and they were entered in a draw to win prizes. And then last, the example on the right-hand side, students from Bowmanville High School in Bowmanville, Ontario, used old milk bags to create sleeping mats for homeless youth in their neighborhood. So by weaving together and crocheting the plastic into new mats, what used to be waste is becoming useful and helpful for people. And if you're not from Canada, then you may not use milk bags, but that's what we keep our milk in here in Canada, is bags of milk. So these are just 3 examples of some amazing things that youth are doing. What do you feel inspired to do to make changes?
So I hope you're ready to feel inspired and start making some commitments, because you all have the power to make changes that could make a real difference in the future of our planet. So it's time to take out our commitment to action sheets that look like this. We're going to think about all of the things we talked about today, and we're going to think big. We'll take a few minutes together to start thinking about the changes that we could make to help reduce the amount of plastic that we use and waste. These are commitments that you're making to yourself to take important actions that might have a big impact on our future. So these are some examples of things that you might choose to commit to. You could commit to researching how products are made before buying them and looking for products made with recycled materials. Or before throwing something out, considering, can it be fixed and do you really need to replace it? You can buy less new clothing, and when you need something, take hand-me-downs or buy secondhand clothing. You can use alternatives to plastic wrap, single-use containers, plastic straws, and single-use cups. You can bring your own water bottle instead of using single-use plastic water bottles. And you can use only reusable shopping bags. You can also make sure that you're recycling properly, and not all recycling systems are the same. Even in your town, your home may be different from a business, so you can look it up on your city's website. And once you're back at school, you can extend your commitments. You can spread awareness and do a shoreline or neighborhood cleanup at your school. You can pick up litter whenever you see it, and you can get your classmates involved. So take a few minutes now to look at your sheet and fill out the 2 sections. Today, I will start committing to some of these actions, or some that you think of yourself, and things that you can do as a family. So you can pause while you brainstorm these ideas, maybe go talk to your family members about some of these ideas, write down your commitments, and sign it to make it official. When you're done, press play so you can hear the last few minutes of this workshop.
Okay. Welcome back. So now that you've made your commitments to action and signed the bottom of your sheet to make it official, so you know for sure you're going to be making these changes, let's see an extension activity to check in on how your plastics use has been reduced or how your actions are actually making a difference. So you may have heard of an ecological footprint or carbon footprint. A footprint in general is a way of measuring your impact on the earth. So tracking it can help you see how your actions are making a difference. So the My Little Plastics Footprint app is a way that you can be held accountable for your plastics use. So if you download it on your phone or on a tablet or even on your computer, you can see how your plastics use compares to other people in your neighborhood, and find out some concrete ways that you can reduce your plastics footprint and make a difference. You can update it as you make changes and check in with family and friends to see how they're doing and make it social and see how much plastic you can really reduce on a daily basis. So thank you so much for listening to the workshop so far. HP, as we said, supported this workshop, and they're working to help make our economy more circular through design, repair, reuse, and recycling electronics in countries all over the world so that plastics can be products and materials can be repurposed. So if you have an old electronic phone or a computer or maybe different types of electronics and you want to learn how to recycle them in your area, you can go to the website that you see on the screen and find out how to recycle them. So that can be really helpful. Thank you so much for listening.
Bye.
Bye.